Please confirm if you see the slides properly. I'm going to start.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Let us now.
Perfect. Well, thank you for organizing this Power Platform Vulkan and yeah, and count with my session here. First of all, I usually introduce myself, and nowadays I'm living in Lisbon, in Portugal. I'm from Spain, so that's why this hola, hola, hello. It's like, okay, let's mix languages. My English is not perfect, but hopefully you will understand everything. And if not, you can contact always on LinkedIn, or in general. I'm always free to talk about these topics because I really love to talk about data, and especially in data visualization techniques, and connect, as I told before, these two words, this design aspect, but always connected to a proper methodology, because we are developing data products. It's not just a matter of make things beautiful. To me, it's something else, and it's why I've been developing a methodology for years. And nowadays, since I'm freelancer, I try to push companies to adopt it, and yeah, to get the best of these UX best practices and apply to the Power BI dashboard development, because I think is the way to connect with the users and to provide designs and dashboards that really helps to decision making, no? Because it's where data makes sense, when the business can get benefit from it. And well, yeah, I'm a Microsoft MVP in data platform and artificial intelligence. I'm a LinkedIn learning instructor. So I have other contents there. The point is they are mostly in Spain and Portuguese, so maybe you are not able to follow them. But just in case you want to maybe improve your languages skills at the same time, maybe it can be useful also for you. And I do so many things. I'm passionate also about arts, about music, about sound design, and maybe this is why I'm different in the data field, because I try to connect and be myself, and provide a different view on the things we develop and the things we design with the data. Because as I told you, there is a lot of value inside the data, but we need to push it. We need to show to the business, and we need to connect the proper insights with the real needs. And that's something I think we need to reinforce in general in a lot of companies, in a lot of examples I see. And yeah, it's something I really think we need to do. I'm also a Power BI community, Power BI core visual community representative. And well, it's not written here in the presentation, but it's also an honor to be there, to be honest, and to communicate and develop all the novelties that they are introducing in the core visuals. I mm, use them most of the time, to be honest, because I think they can cover the 80-90% of use cases we have in data visualization. So yeah, all this. As I told you, I do a lot of things. You can find a little bit more about myself in paulagarciaesteban.com. This website is only in Spanish, but we have tools like Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever, to translate it. So maybe it can be an option to investigate more about myself. And my English website and my professional services website is uxforpowerbi.com. So just in case you want just to check a little bit. I also want to talk about this community in Spain, because they have really helped me time ago. I try to participate with them, but I think it's something we also need to reinforce a little bit in some certain communities. I'm part of the Women for Technical Talks, and the objective of this community is to encourage more women to participate in technical events, because the reality is we are always less. And this is not a matter of ratios, not at all. It's just to encourage and make ourselves more visible in a field where, well, there are a lot of men, and maybe our differences and our different approach can, well, for example, show to you another way or a methodology that connects this artistic field with the real data and, you know, collaborate and improve our knowledge and our capacities as community, being more inclusive and being, yeah, part of this session too. So, well, first of all, um, thank you again to host this session here and to make me possible to share with you these ideas. But in general, if there is any woman there in the other side of the screen that thinks maybe I have something interesting to share with the community, do it. Try it. We need your voices here too. And well, let's focus on the topic, and it's data visualization applied to Power BI. And I always like to start talking about the data visualization benefits, but because they are more than aesthetical things. Okay. First of all, data visualization help us to capture attention and connect with the audience. And this specific benefit has something in common with the branding and the logo and the corporative colors and these parts that are more connecting to marketing materials or marketing standards within a company. But what's more important is not about making dashboard beautiful or using the logo everywhere because this way the people feel more involved with the dashboard, whatever. It's more about capturing the attention and make environment where the people feels connected, where the people feels in their professional environment. To me, is the most important part of this branding thing within the dashboards. Then data visualization help us to tell better stories when we have an insight and we need to develop the narrative, the data narrative to tell a story with conclusions for the business, or it also help us to enable exploration. And I always do this difference, make or try to highlight this difference, because most of the time what we are doing with our dashboards is enable the exploration, so providing a system where users, final users, can navigate and get their own conclusion. And to me, something different um, from telling a story. A story has a beginning, a middle part, and a conclusion. And when you enable exploration, is the user that needs to create a story. Okay, so yeah, I like to differentiate because the way you develop a dashboard is slightly different. Then data visualization help us to identify patterns and outliers more easily. That values that help us to then identify the story we need to tell to the users. So it's not only a thing that helps the final users, it also helps us as data analyst, wherever you call your role, because we know we have a lot of different roles for the same thing. When you are creating a new report or a new dashboard, you need to explore the data, and data visualization techniques helps you also to identify the best pattern, the pattern, the thing you need to communicate if you really want to impact in the business. And then it's been demonstrated for years, and this is related to perception, psychology, and all these things that seems to be very humanistic fields, but they're really connected with data because we are humans, and humans needs to consume the data and to make decisions based on that. So yeah, it helps a lot to know a little bit about these perception attributes and this psychological field and connect it with the best practices. And that the visualization is something I do in other sessions I give in the community. So just in case you do want to follow me, because maybe I'm talking about this in another next following session. And well, what I was saying is data visualization help us to retain, to increase our memory, because retention through graphical memory increases. And when we have text or we have data, but we also attach an image and a graphic, a column chart, a blind chart, whatever, it helps us to memorize better and decrease the effort we need to apply to remember. We have our short-term memory, and if we use it properly, the data visualization technique, thinking about how people process all the information, we can also make a different impact in the data we are communicating. So, I mean, as you can see, it's not about put things beautiful. We can do also beautiful dashboards, yes, of course, but we are not artists, okay? And that's why I use this slide. Um, what's the difference between an artist and a designer? To me, the artist is expressing something, an emotion, or whatever he or she want to express to an audience. And the consumption is not because they need to solve a problem, it's just because they enjoy and they want to connect or experiment new emotions in their lives or whatever. Just enjoy the piece of art, okay? The designer solves a problem, and this is the main difference between creating something just for fun, or as we said in Spain, just for the shape of art, like you are creating just because you like to create. No, um, when we are creating or developing a new dashboard, we are solving a problem. We are communicating an insight, and that's why we can have best practices and a methodology for acting as designers. Even if you are a very logical person or you have this engineer mindset, whatever. By the way, I didn't tell you before, I've been working in marketing departments for years, but I'm a telecommunications engineer, so I really mix these two words in my daily basics in general and when I'm designing dashboards. So that's why I need a methodology. I need steps. I need procedures. I need mechanisms that helps me to connect with the problem and then provide a graphical solution. Let's call it that way. And that's why I've developed this methodology, getting the best or trying to connect the best of design thinking, that is an agile methodology that help us to identify the best solution for problems, and UX, user experience, concepts and mechanisms that help us to develop better products in general. This field has been developed basically for websites or apps. But what is a dashboard? Is a corporative tool that we use within a company and behind a screen, right? So why do not use the best practices that has been implemented for years in the web development? We can do it, right? So that's why I put these two diamonds that represent the design system approach, and I connected with a UX system or a UX layers that help us to identify the business needs and start developing step by step. So that's why I don't consider uh, the development of a dashboard as something very creative. It is, but you can follow certain rules and it really helps. Okay. Well, what's design thinking? It's an agile methodology aimed at generating solutions to complex problems. What's a complex problem? It's something that has so many solutions. And we usually have complex problems when we have users in the other side because all of them live different job realities, have different responsibilities, and usually, and well, I hope that you don't develop dashboards just for one person. You develop them for a group of people, for a team, a whole organization, and that's complex. Why? Because we have a lot of potential solutions, and design thinking is something that help us to diverge and generate a lot of ideas and validate and then diverge again and get ideas on how to approach this solution and then validate again with the business in this case if we are achieving what we are supposed to solve. Okay, so the 5 steps we follow in a design system and design thinking approach is emphasize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Okay, and it's connected to these 2 diamonds I've showed you before. I connected with the UX layers, as I told you, and everything starts from the bottom. Okay, and what we have here, the user needs. I'm gonna get the laser point. We have the user needs, we have the site objectives, okay, the dashboard objectives, okay. Then we have this part here. I don't invent this. This has been defined years ago, okay. And here we have the time. From the conception, we go through the time, step by step, developing this until we complete it and we apply the visual design. Okay, here is where we can be more creative and adopt this design system. I'm going to explain later what it is, but basically, keep in mind you need to understand the user needs and the dashboard objectives. Then you will be able to define the content requirements, the functional specification, how you will connect the different pieces of information, the information architecture, and based on that, how you will interact within them, with buttons, with a slicer, with a bookmark, with what. Until you don't have this, you cannot continue creating. Then the information design is where you should identify the best visual, how you will adapt the access, the colors, everything that really communicates the insight. And at the very end is when we apply this design system, this visual design that really connects with the environment, with the style of the organization you have developed. And the best thing is that it also makes you save a lot of time. And that's something very good when you are working in the development of the project. And well, we all know that when you need to design, you don't have time anymore, or you have not, you don't have the all the time that maybe you will require for that. So if you automate certain parts, you will do faster and more. You will get a more professional solution. This is the explanation. As I told you, look, the year where this paper, when this paper was written by Jace James, you can look for it. Yeah, Google it, and you will for sure have this paper in case you want to learn more about the elements of user experience. I really recommend it. But basically, remember, we need to start from the bottom and then develop it. Okay, and how I connect these different layers with the design, sorry, the agile approach, where we have these 2 diamonds and we generate ideas and we emphasize with the organization what we can have as tools. For example, for understanding the business needs, we can deliver one-to-one meetings, we can define personas, we can have a form within a company, we can work in focus group and have internal workshops and try to get and understand the real needs of the final user. That is not it's not always the person that is leading the project. Sometimes we have a product manager or a product owner, but he or she is not super connected with all the different needs they have in the business. So it's good to include every perspective in this moment, or at least I consider it that way. Then with that, with a proper understanding of the business and this review of business goals, we can retake the technical definition and then identify the content requirements, the UI UX requirements, and what's super important, the definition of success. What's going to be the minimum valuable product we need to deliver, and then we will iterate, okay, and improve it, of course. But what's the minimum we need, and what's the minimum that will help the business to make decision? Again, we need to provide decisions to the business. Then we can start developing user flows, layouts, wireframes. We need to choose the right visual to set up the correct the correct axis, the correct colors, the labels, everything we have within the visuals. There are a lot of we have a lot of options there. Then we can create a interactive low fidelity mockup. We're going to see just a fast review of that. Then we open Power BI. Up until here, I do not open Power BI. And when I open Power BI and I apply all these settings, later is where I apply the design system, the theme, the JSON file, but more things. Then we can have this technical validation and, of course, a part of usability and accessibility testing that I think is crucial and help us to improve a lot our reports. Within Power BI, we have a lot of elements. If you are a user, I know you work with visuals, the main element for communicating with data. We have slicers. I recommend to users use them sparingly, not a lot, because sometimes we put a lot of elements and we can cover this navigation with other solutions. And then we have buttons for page navigation. We have bookmarks, and I recommend always to use this. And what's more important, with intuitive icons. Sometimes I see icons that is like, oh my God, I never imagine, as if I were a user, I've never imagined that it's something is going to happen if I click on that. So please use the standards because it's better for the users, and introduce context. What I mean with context, we have the possibility of introduce text, titles, subtitles, descriptions. Please use it because it will help the user to be more autonomous in their analysis. And that's very good in terms of perception of your professionalism when you are developing an internal solution inside a company. These are the main menus we have in Power BI, and when we are working as designers, let's say that way, is the places where we should focus the more. And what's a design system? Because it's the main topic of this session. But I always like to give a general context about the whole methodology because this is just a little part, and it's something you apply when you have complete the other steps. Okay. And what's a design system? First of all, it's much more than colors. It's more than what we have in the themes in Power BI. That's something the Microsoft team want to review, the Power BI Core Visuals team and the team that is working with Miguel Meyers, that is the program manager, is working or is suggesting to improve, but they have a lot of things to do. So, well, let's see how they can prioritize them, and we can see really a difference in these themes. But a design system is much more than colors, it's much more than fonts. We need also to think about the structure. I really recommend to have a corporative header with a primary and secondary navigation. We're going to see what I refer, what is that. We need to have these buttons and their status defined within an organization, because it's going to be more intuitive for the users to understand that they need to click on that and something's going to happen. And then we can define help elements, tooltip style, etc. We can do a lot of different elements and prepare the standards that will make us create dashboard faster and with this professional impact and perception from the business. Okay. For example, we need to take care about the fonts and the contrast we use in the labels. As you can see here, we have the same style for the title, but look how it changes if I set up the axis, I use different colors. And look, this is monochromatic approach. I mean, I'm not putting a lot of colors. Why? Because what I want to highlight here in this example is the sales and the sales evolution. And then I use the column, the line chart overlap to the column, and I use this gray or this soft blue because I don't want to make this part important. So if you have defined how you are gonna put the labels, how you're gonna highlight in every single visual the main KPI you want the user to focus, it's going to be easier in other visual to understand where to focus attention. So that's why it's connected to memory to impact more on how we perceive the information we provide inside the dashboard. You also can take into account when designing your design system in the principles like enclosure, the Gestalt principles, etc. And for example, look here, I highlight the space and I mark the space I have for this visual, but you don't have to follow a specific approach. This is a decision you need to take when you are creating your design system. But the thing is, you need to standardize them. What doesn't make sense is to put one angle in a box for one report, and in the other page, I use this style. We need to be consistent because this will generate order and perception that everything is structured and it's easy to understand for the final user. So these are, for example, things you need to take into account when designing these design systems. What we need also to have this primary menu and the secondary menu. And for example, is what I suggest here. We can use the colors to highlight a main menu with more present and more protagonism when you have selected in the navigation bar. You have an item that is selected, and in case you have a secondary level, you can attach them. We're going to see an example soon, but the idea is to connect it. And in case you have a hierarchical navigation, because you have a lot of pages in a report, you can connect and use these website standards to guide the users and on how they should click and how they should navigate up until they get their conclusions. Same thing for buttons. We can have the primary buttons, more pushy, more protagonism in an environment, or a secondary style of buttons that let the user to interact, but it's not capturing their attention on a first sight. Just in case they read more and they are interested of evolve the examination of the data, then they will realize they need to click in another button of a secondary button to get this conclusion. For that, what I recommend, I always try to remember the people that is developing dashboard is please set the states, set the default state, say the selected status, set the on over status. Why? Because is the way the user will perceive that they has to click and something's going to happen. If not, we are missing an important part of the navigation and the options we have with Power BI. More, we need the contextual buttons. As I told you, we can include messages that will help the user to understand how to analyze, what kind of conclusions they have, the definition of the KPIs. We can do a lot of things. So please, let's use the contextual buttons we already have and use the alt attribute to put text, because it's going to be super useful for the users. In case of bookmarks, we can also define how we want the users to switch between one visual and the other with these buttons or slicers of bookmarks in this case. And it's something you need to define once. Why? Because then you replicate this style. And this is good for the users because the learning curve, when they have a new report within the company, is going to be faster. They're going to understand perfectly how to interact with any bookmarks if they have interact with one. Then suddenly they will know how to interact with everything you provide within your organization, with your all Power BI ecosystem of reports. So that's why this standardization is good. How I change or how I move from a mockup, or how I translate a mockup into a live report. Well, first of all, a mockup is something you can do more digitally or just in a paper, okay? And this works because the best thing of low fidelity mockups is you can do it fast and you can iterate fast and you can show something to the user and tell, look, you think this distribution can work for your scope, for your goal when you're analyzing something? This it covers the story you want to tell with the data. So that's something that you can do super fast. Of course, we have another tools. I'm going to show you one that I really like it because it helps you to validate with the business the interaction. And interaction, I think, is something really, really important. But basically, what you need is to have a prototype, something you can develop faster to the business and validate the idea, okay? And you need to connect the different views you have, the different pages you have with this within these layouts with the wireframes, okay? Why? Because you save time when you approach the dashboards with these tools, with these prototypes, instead of waiting until you have the data and you start developing. Here, for creating this kind of prototypes and have this first conversation with the business, you don't have a dependency with the data. And we know that connecting the sources, cleaning the data, elaborating the metrics, the model, etc., it takes a lot of time, right? So let's have this conversation and validate with the business in the first stage before opening Power BI. How you can create better prototypes and validate the navigation. For example, in this tool, you have a lot of tools. I'm not saying this is the best. I just recommend this because it has a free plan and also you can validate the interaction. We're going to see later, okay? But the idea is once you have validate this with the business, you can apply your colors and your design system, as I told you before, is more than colors, and change it. And if your branding style is this one, you have defined that you are gonna use this gray for the background, and you are gonna have always a logo here and a picture that represents something in the report, and some filters and slicers, whatever, and a description, context again important. Context is very important, and you can evolve it and you focus on these colors, but you want a more minimalistic style. Look, it's exactly the same. So what I need to validate with the business is this structure covering your analytical needs? You don't need, do you need the KPIs, then a table or a matrix, then a time series thing that shows you the evolution and a ranking and a part of the whole thing? You validate that and then you apply the colors, you apply the style. And you don't think about this text should be Arial in 12 point, blah, blah, blah. No, you're not thinking about that. How you highlight the trend line, always be with blue. So blue, you apply your blue, that blue that you have already defined. The things that should be highlighted is in this deep blue. Okay, so go for it. And for this, I use a grayscale, and that's okay. And in general, because my aesthetical and I want this minimalistic style, etc., I'm gonna use a shadow, a soft shadow here. So I create this layering thing and I create a more professional impact on the business, and I standardize everything and people feel comfortable when entering this because he said, oh, look, it's very clear. I like it, or not, or maybe they like this. Okay, this again is exactly the same idea. You validate this approach, then you can adapt the color you want. Okay, this is a kind of crazy. That's what I did time ago, where I used the different colors of the Disney villains. Ursula, well, from these movies for children. But the idea is disconnect what you communicate from the colors of your company, because uh, sometimes we waste a lot of time with these decisions, and you need to do it once, then you apply it. Well, what are the benefits before the demo? What are the benefits, different benefits of a design system? Agility in creating new reports, standardization, reducing the learning curve for new reports, as I already told you, branding of your department. your data department aligned to your branding standards within a company, or if you are a consultant or whatever, connecting with the customer branding, but a branding department that generates more professional perception and avoid opinions. And I think this sometimes sounds rude. It's not that I don't like opinions. I already told you that testing is super important, but the testing is about the usability, not about, no, I like this blue, or no, I prefer this round corner, or I mean, what is the value on that? Or I like the buttons in orange. Thank you. Why you want that? You want a button that generates an impact and allows you to navigate from this point to the other. What you need to validate is that. And the time we have, generally, the time we can spend with the final users is super short in case we have time to do that. So please focus on the things that are really important, and colors are not important. Are important only if they are communicating an insight. And for that, we need to have our main color that says the users, look here is the main thing, the main KPI you need to put your attention. Okay, so that's why I said it helps us to avoid opinions. What is a design system to me, or the service I develop and how I do it? I provide guidelines, so general structure on how you need to apply colors and the certain patterns in case someone's lost can read and check if they are going to the correct direction when designing. Then, of course, JSON file and also PBX files. And I'm going to show you what what I have in this. This is a business case. You have it in my website in case you want to learn more about this, because I have a lot of contents and a lot of things to say in these sessions, and I try to do fast, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to explain everything in another language. What I provide to the business, as I told you, first, headers, standard headers like this. You can do, of course, with your logo, with the interaction, if you need a title, subtitle. In this case, they need the dates for the when the data was updated, or for example, if you have made different changes within a dashboard, you can inform about relevant things. You can also have something that help us to communicate. I don't know. Imagine you usually have questions from the business like, look, this data is not updated, blah, blah, blah. Okay, because you know your ERP or your origin, your data source is not consolidated up until 24 hours later. And maybe you need to inform to the user, like, look, if you check this data tomorrow, can vary a little bit because we have not finished the consolidation, blah, 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 whatever. Or an announcement. Look, this dashboard has a new training and you can access to the recording session here. I'm just thinking out loud now about possibilities of things you potentially need to communicate to a final user that is consuming your dashboard. And you can consider all these options. And then if you have a drill through, or in your report, you have the standard here. And if you have developed correctly it and you create groups, you can copy and paste super fast this in a new report. I'm going to show you later in a short minutes how to use it and copy them without breaking the things. But the idea is, if you have these headers and all these components, you can adapt it faster and standardize everything you have within your organization. I also provide a grid because it helps you to, let's say, to organize everything, keeping the spaces between the visuals and generating this order within the different pages. Then all the interactive elements, as I told you, the first level interactive buttons, a secondary level, for example, for a drill through, because it has not to be so relevant in terms of graphical impact in the users. No? So that's why I have a secondary style, and also and a standard for the bookmarks in case I want to switch between this bookmark, this visual, and another one. Okay. And then we can have also other elements that the business requires. For example, I need to group sometimes two visuals. Okay, let's use this background so we connect. We use these gestalt attributes to connect pieces of information that should be related. So I provide them different options and a style for a tooltip, whatever. Okay, and also a lot of visuals classified by the evolution across time, different elements. When you to use a red or a green for positive or negative values, how to use colors, how to use the labels, the general style for these KPIs and these cards or these gauge elements. So everything that lets you as developer to not think a lot. Okay. For example, for matrix, you have a style, you apply the style. And then if you need a specific style or retouch a little bit, you have a standard within your organization. How you apply this? The idea is I'm gonna do it super fast because I know we are I start later than was intended. When you have a dashboard, I tell you like, do not touch the colors, do not touch anything until you have this definition on what you need within the dashboard, right? So imagine we have this dashboard, we have validate the structure, and it's covering in terms of data what we have. How we apply this um, design system? First of all, we need to apply the theme. In this case, we go here and I apply the theme I've already prepared and validate within my organization. And automatically, and it's not perfect because JSON files sometimes do weird things, let's say that way. But at least I have the titles, I have my colors, I have the blue, have kind of everything. No. What else? I need to adapt the size of the dashboard because in this case, my canvas is greater. I think it's, sorry if I don't, I think it's 1080 or, no, the other way, sorry. It's not correct. Okay, let me check because that's why we have the standards here. Let me check and let's copy the 1080 por 920, vale. Okay, I apply this. We see that suddenly the elements are decrease their size because I make bigger the canvas. And then the idea is you can copy and paste everything. Imagine we need this menu, this header in this case. I'm going to copy this. You copy, you go to your report, you paste. Then problems like this can happen, okay? I'm going to explain you how to solve this. Basically, it's because we have attached here something that is connected to the model. So sometimes it seems that it's broken when you have data. Do not focus the attention here because I'm going to explain you with another visual. And now we need to adapt these elements, right? So I'm going to go to my visuals. And for example, I have a matrix, right? So I'm going to copy this style, copy and paste here. Again, it appears like broken. Then what we need to do is go into this painting tool and select it. When we have select this visual that apparently has an error, and then we go to this, and when we click, it applies the style we had defined before. Okay, so it's something that really helps you to adapt the style faster. More visuals. For example, let's get this chart. We copy, we paste, apparently it's broken. I apply, and then we have the style exactly as it was defined with the text I had, the title I had, the rounded corners I had, because if you see here, we don't have this rounded thing. So look how fast it is. And if you copy the grid, you copy and paste this part, you can also keep all the structure. It's important to have always open this menu because it helps you to organize everything. But the idea here is with this grid, you can adapt all the elements so you organize everything you have in your reports. Sorry, demo effect is happening. This is why I try to do things faster. That, let's put it this way. Then here. And I don't know how I'm going in terms of time, but I'm going to stop here. And just, yeah, imagine you spend a little bit more time putting everything in the right position. And you can also, for example, use this space for filters. Again, copy and paste. I attach here. I need to connect the proper field to this filter. And you have your style. How long I spent? 4 minutes on doing this. Of course, you need to spend a little bit more and put everything correct, but look how fast it is. So if you spend a bit of time on creating all these materials, the time your people in the business it's going to spend in the new dashboard is going to be nothing, but nothing. This is the tool I told you before. I like to show it to you because one thing I think is super interesting is we have a lot of charts here. And if you click, sorry, if you click, you automatically have it. And the good thing is you can edit the data. So you can, well, adapt it and make them more close to the real business need and the real business data you're going to have. So it's like PowerPoint, but it's something that allows you to put the most common visual. That's something good. And once you have developed a dashboard like this, for example, you can copy and paste. And the learning curve of this tool, I think, is super fast. So, well, if you want to have a look, it's called mockups.com. And another thing I like is you can put some interactions. Okay, for example, here, imagine this is an info page. Okay, and in this case, I set the interaction, and if you go to the live preview, the part that in theory is thought for the testing, for the low fidelity testing, you can click here, and the user have the same experience. Sorry, this is not set up. In case you click here, you can go to the info page and you can come back, and then you can show the user how the interaction is going to be. So you have a better understanding if you are going in the right direction or not when you open Power BI and you create your report with these aesthetical standards, let's say. The materials I showed to you is part of this case study. You can check in my website just in case you are interested, not in, I mean, in my services, but it's not, do not understand this as a promotional thing. Is because inside the business case, I show to you the step by step I follow, like the analysis, how I create, when I create the theme, and how I iterate with the business for having all this validation and provide the materials, and maybe it can help you to create it in your company. So that's why I focus on this business case, and also because it allows me to do yeah, this short demo and show the real materials and how to apply them. Here the testimonial. To be honest, I'm happy with this project because they said, and I'm aware that they are using it, and they said officially that they save time doing the reports, and it's the main objectives yeah, I have when creating this kind of materials, because they really help a lot, especially to those developers that don't like design and it this happens, we know. So this is the end-to-end process of designing a dashboard within an organization. We have already seen it. And the main thing is the rest is business unusual until we have our prototype and we validate our low fidelity prototype with the business. We can keep going like we have always did, creating the model, connecting the origins, creating the metrics, data quality validation, everything. Then when you have the data, you connect it to Power BI, you have everything in Power BI. You create your basic stuff, your basic visuals, then you apply the design system. Then you have your final test and you deliver. And once you have delivered your minimum product valuable product, your MVP, your minimum definition that helps the business to make decisions, then you iterate because, of course, this is a live project. You can learn, you need to track what's going on, what's the experience, what's the satisfaction, and new requirements are going to happen, and UX improvements, and maybe bugs with the data, wherever you. This is something that needs to evolve in the time, and this approach really helps to have better solution within a company. Again, I don't know how I'm going in terms of the timing, but I hope you have understand anything. If not, if there is any questions, please let me know. Thanks again to sponsors, to organizers, and you can follow me, ask me, and yeah, check the business case in case you want more information, whatever. I share a lot of topics related to data visualization techniques, a part of AI. So in case you want to follow me, I'm always open to contribute to the community. So yeah, thank you very much.